Here's how we made a banger brand video in just one day for Port City Amplification, a boutique guitar amp company. We're gonna take you through the whole process.
Development to production to editing. At the end, we'll even talk about how to use a brand video for your business and if it's right for your business.
But first, let's talk about what a brand video even is.
Hey y'all, Future Me here. So we made this video and we were getting ready to post it, and then Hurricane Helene came through and totally devastated this town of Swannanoa, which is where Port City, the company we made this brand video for, is based out of. So it didn't really feel right to post the video at that time for obvious reasons. Now, Daniel and everybody on the team at Port City are okay. Port City is continuing to move forward. And they actually have an initiative going on right now to where if you buy an amp, 15% of the proceeds also go to Beloved Asheville, which is helping with all of the cleanup and relief efforts. And it helps this company that is amazing, Port City, keep their doors open and keep moving forward during this time where everything is just really difficult. So if you do want to buy an amp from them, now is the best time to do so. But if not, definitely check out Beloved Asheville and think about making a donation to them to help with the relief efforts. So please consider doing that, and let's get back to the video.
A brand video is basically a backstory of your company or product. It's not really a commercial, it's not really a documentary. It exists in this interesting space in between those two things, but we're essentially telling the story of the people behind the scenes. The love, the sweat, the tears, the sawdust that goes into different products that people make.
It's also kind of the who, what, why, and how of your company. So what you do is obviously really important, but also we want to talk about who is your product or service for and how do you do it. Your why is really important because those things are really where your audience is going to connect with your company. So the first part of the process is development. And this is where we just really seek to understand what is your story, what is your why, what is your how, all of that stuff. Who are the key players on your team so that we can try and disseminate like how we want to tell your story, right? And what are the things that we want to highlight? What is your existing branding? What is kind of your existing messaging so that we can kind of align ourselves with that and get a vision for what the finished product is going to look like.
It's essentially a lot of meetings. Just like a lot of conversation, but it's important. You want to catch the vision of like why people do what they do and why they have the business that they have. Because, they could go work at Denny's, but instead they're doing this, and a lot of times, especially on the boutique level, like with Port City, it's not necessarily because of the money. It's because of a passion that somebody has.
Absolutely. And when we say a lot of meetings, it's true. We try and make this process as low impact for the business as possible because at the end of the day, we don't want a video project to be a hindrance to the operations of your company. Taking a lot of notes when I'm doing those meetings with the business owner, kind of bringing that to Jack, and we'll kind of let it marinate a little bit and talk through it. And
yeah, there was an important comparison that the business continued to bring to our attention, and it was they wanted to be considered the Porsche of guitar amp manufacturers. So that influenced a lot of the way we approached it. We're focusing on quality of build and quality of product. Like really that's the emphasis of the entire video.
Port City is a company that makes all of their amps by hand. So it's a process that takes a lot of time, right? I believe their lead time is like 8-ish weeks. So once you order your amp, it's going to be a couple months before it gets to you, right? So that is something that we want to include in the video, but that's not something that we necessarily want to dwell on in the video. Right?
We're going to lead off with it.
Yeah. Hey, order an amp. It's going to take 2 months, Like we want to really communicate what the process is, how methodical they are, what their why is behind this, so that when we tell you that it's going to be 8 weeks, you're like, oh, that's perfect. I totally understand.
Yeah.
So being a guitar amp company, what's really important is not just talking about how they're building the amps and why they build the amps the way that they do, but as a viewer and as a potential customer, the audience needs to be able to see what it's like to actually play these amps, what these amps actually sound like. So capturing performances on a variety of amps that they offer was really important. And it worked out really well because not only were we able to use the performances as the sound bed of the video, as we'll talk about later, but we were also able to add these as additional deliverables so that we could use them as product demos. And instead of just getting one brand video, now you're getting a brand video plus 8 product demos, and you're able to cut those down into social media clips and so on and so forth. So you're able to take something that really is one video project, one day shoot, and get a lot of different stuff out of it.
The owner, Daniel, was very adamant about their standards and practices. They do not let anything slide, and they take a lot of pride in their work, which definitely influenced the way that we chose to capture this story.
That actually leads us into the pre-production aspect, because once we fully understand the company and the story that we're trying to tell here, that's where we start breaking it down into what it is that we want to capture, how we want to capture, and start lining up those things, right? So it started with a studio, right? Like we need to get into a really nice studio. Luckily, we were able to get into Echo Mountain Studios in Asheville, which is just absolutely beautiful. And obviously that location also kind of influences how the video is going to look and the types of shots that we're going to get and the lighting that we're going to use and all of this kind of stuff. So in this pre-production process, this is where we, again, take all of these kind of heady ideas about what we want to do and start breaking it down into, okay, how are we going to fit all of this into a day of filming?
Yeah, so we only had one day to film this, and really part of that is a restriction to place upon ourselves so that we don't interfere with the business's operation too much. You know, we want to make it easy for the business to trust us to tell their story, and part of that is not taking up too much of their time. Like, hey, we're going to sit around for 8 weeks and watch you build an amp. Like, we're not going to do that, and that would have been astronomically expensive.
Right.
What was great about the recording studio is it wasn't built like a standard recording studio. It used to be a church. So they've converted the sanctuary into a recording space, maintaining all of the architecture and all of the natural wood of the space.
Big stained glass window.
Big stained glass window, you know, just kind of, they have adopted it as opposed to trying to strip it and make it something different. The space, the colors, the warmth of the room definitely influenced like the vision for how it was going to look.
We also had to consider like, okay, we have performances we need to get, we have interviews we need to get, we have B-roll we need to get of them building the amps. Them being based just outside of Asheville is really important to them, and is, you know, being in that area kind of influences the way that they operate, right? So we got to get B-roll of the city and the mountains around it. So there's a lot of stuff to get in a day. So the things that I'm thinking about as a producer is, okay, who do we need as crew? What do we need for gear? And how are we going to divide up that day to make the best use of our time? So we decided to go with a 4-person group. It was myself and Jack, producer and director, but we were both on camera. Jonathan Beatty as our gaffer. He owns a bunch of lights and he knows how to use them. He's got a dolly. He's got all of the toys that we need to play with. So he was a no-brainer to bring onto the project. Also brings a lot of knowledge. Like, he's a great person to have on set.
Oh, yeah.
And then we needed sound. So the studio itself comes with sound for recording the actual performances and the product demos, but we also needed to capture sound for interviews. So we brought on Craig Tracy to do sound, and also, since the one interview was kind of a small part of our day, he really acted as a grip for most of the day and got the beautiful behind the scenes footage that you're seeing throughout this video.
During the actual production day, it was very important to maintain an idea of like what the schedule is and also what are the things that we have to get. If you've ever been around guitar amp guys, they'll tweak the sound forever if they're in a recording studio, because they're used to going in there and taking their time, getting their sound right. There's no clocks, you know, they're not aware of the time. So we had to, you know, shimmy them along a little bit, but
Yeah.
it was great. The performances were really amazing. The players were outstanding. And with the performances specifically, we wanted to make sure that we used multiple cameras to get multiple angles of the same action. So every song that the guys would play, they would end up playing it 2 or 3 times, and we would then sync the multiple cameras in post, and we would end up with 4 angles, four to sometimes 6 or 8 angles of one particular performance. And that just gave us so many more options in the editing room. If we had one shot of every performance, it would have felt kind of stale at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're just doing a product demo and you're doing just a array of product demos, right? Like, maybe it's okay. Maybe you can get away with that. But being that we were also using this to tell a larger story, we need to be able to keep it visually interesting throughout the video, right? So having those multiple camera angles and moving in, like starting wide and moving in tighter as we go on, as we get those different performances, was really important.
So directing something like this, you're definitely trying to make sure that you're getting all of your assets you need. And that takes planning and preparation. So my job during the development process was really to assess whether or not the edit could be completed with what we were planning on getting. But then it definitely turns into, when you're on set, you definitely have to kind of triage and figure out, okay, this is important to get right now. Can we send somebody else to go get a particular product shot? Can we send somebody else to go do something else when we're running low on time? In those moments, the experience of working on hundreds of commercials really comes in handy because you know how to approach stuff. So we had a really big stained glass window in the church sanctuary that's been converted to the recording studio, which was beautiful, and it let in a lot of awesome light. But the problem was that the reflection of it off of like the control room glass was very distracting. And I was like, yeah, I don't think we're really going to be able to do that. So we had to black it out. And we ended up having to manage a lot of reflections just throughout the entire creative process. But I think we did a pretty good job. It just took some time, which made the rest of the day a little fast. But with this particular shoot, everybody was really gung-ho and really bought into the vision of the company and the vision of the product that we were making. So it was very easy to get multiple hands to move amps around, to build the background. There was a lot of enthusiasm, which was really refreshing.
Absolutely. And speaking of lighting the set, I mean, again, can't overstate how beautiful of a facility Echo Mountain is. But also, when we showed up, we were thinking that, because we actually didn't get a chance to go in pre-production to look at the space, we knew there was plenty of room, right? And luckily, Echo Mountain had plenty of pictures and video tours on their website, so that was really helpful. We didn't really need to go there. But there were some things we were planning as far as like, we're going to need to backlight them somehow. We're going to need to motivate a backlight, so on and so forth. But when we showed up, in front of the control room window, there's 4 lamps just positioned beautifully. And as soon as I walked in, I was like it's perfect. No notes, you know? And then also we were planning on getting on top of the control room to put a light up there so that we could have a backlight on the players. And then guess what? We show up and there's a light up there that's the same color temperature as the lamps.
Yeah, they had 2 like 4-bank little tungsten lights that were backlighting the perfect area where the players were going to be. And it just, it was amazing. Yeah, it made our lives so much easier. We did use haze. We hazed up the room to try to bring more of a textural quality to the actual space, paired with our cinema lenses to kind of soften the way the light was interacting with everyone. It kind of creates a cozy vibe. We really wanted that because part of the ethos of the company is like, you're going to love playing this amp. And I think when people play guitar amps, it feels very intimate, and the lighting definitely reflected that.
So the last thing we're thinking about as far as production goes is camera movement. Because if it's just static the whole time, you know, it's going to be kind of boring to watch, especially for a 5-6 minute video. So we made sure to bring in a dolly. That was really important. Every guitar performance, one of us was on the dolly and the other one was on either sticks or handheld. Is really important. If everything is locked off, it's going to be boring. But if your camera movement is not intentional, then you're not going to be able to tell the story the way you want to. So with the dolly shot specifically, we're kind of parallaxing around back and forth around the subject. And what this is doing, because we have a kind of half circle of amps, you know, coming around the backside of the player. You know, if you're centered and you're just sitting there centered, then you're going to be blocking the 2 amps that are directly behind them, right? So being able to move back and forth around allows us to reveal all of the amps that are encircling them as they're playing.
We don't want to distract. We just want to enhance. And with the handheld stuff, I really wanted to focus on both the emotion of the player and the ferocity of their fingers, you know what I mean? Because they're doing something I can't do. So it's pretty interesting. So luckily, it's a cool thing to shoot. So you kind of don't have to do a lot to make it cool. I think people get lost in that. They think they have to push the camera a lot, or they have to move it a lot. They have to create a lot of parallax. In reality, most of the time, that's just getting in the way of what is already cool that you're capturing on screen.
Absolutely. And the biggest mistake I see people make with camera movements is moving the camera too fast. People will pick up a gimbal or, even getting a crane out or something like that. And the movement is really fast and it kind of makes the viewer go, oh, the camera is moving. What we want to do is we want the camera to be moving, but we don't want the viewer to be thinking about that, right? So that goes back to what you were saying about it being subtle. What we're really trying to do is accentuate the emotion of the scene. Like one thing that we did a lot was tilting up from the hands to the face of the player. Again, this is about how playing these amps makes you feel.
Speaking of plugging in amps, here's a plug for our YouTube channel.
If you are a business that is looking to enhance your brand with videos, we're the people to talk to. We have a client that we've made over $500,000 for right here on YouTube with not a lot of views, because what we're really good at is getting your target audience to watch your videos and then converting the customers. So brand videos like we're talking about today are a big part of that. Actually, I'll save that for later about how to actually use a brand video so people watch the whole video. But just know that if you are looking to grow your brand using video on social media, for the people to talk to, we'll have a link to our website in the description. Reach out to us. Let's get to work.
Also, we're going to be posting a bunch of videos on this channel demystifying the video process for you and your business. So hit the subscribe button and the bell for that good.
And also comment. Let us know what you want to learn.
Yeah.
And we'll make videos about it. And we might even hang out with you in the comments too. So let's talk about post-production. It was definitely more than a day. We allocated about a week for Jack to edit this. So Jack, I'll kind of let you focus on this section here.
Yeah, editing this project was really fun because the content was so cool and the story was so cool. And being familiar with the process of musicians and how they interact with their equipment helped me for sure in finding the story. One of my favorite bits of the interview was when Daniel was talking about his first experience listening to guitar music.
I remember going down, it was probably 1983. We had this brown Pontiac station wagon called Gus. Man, I hear the sound coming out of the speaker. And I just remember putting my ear up against the speaker and just like trying to find out what is that? Come to find out, it was Van Halen's Panama. And I was kind of hooked from that point forward.
And I chose to start the piece that way because I feel like everybody has had that kind of experience, whether it be waking up on a Saturday and hearing music in the kitchen and knowing like, we're going to clean the house today. Or if it was, going to your first concert or, hearing music at church, one of those things, like everybody has some sort of initial introduction.
That light bulb moment.
Yeah, exactly. To the music. And I was like, that's a really humanizing experience. And you can see how it contributes to Daniel's passion for his company and the product that he creates. We wanted to use the performances as kind of a bedrock for the edit, letting the performances ebb and flow, and in the quiet moments, bring in the interview to tell the story. Almost orchestral in a way, going between the music and the audio. And that really dictated the flow of the edit. The important things we wanted to do with the edit was to start with his why, Daniel's why. Why is he doing this? Everybody at least is remotely familiar with guitar amps or music equipment to some extent, but he really had this personal connection to it. And then it's like you're kind of on this train of learning about them and what they do and how much pride they take in their work. And it was a really fun edit, and I don't want to say it was super easy, but it kind of was because like the story was so clear.
Again, I wasn't in the editing bay with you, but it is a bit collaborative, right? Like we're still in this part of the process, talking to each other and discussing different parts of it. And that's huge because we interviewed Daniel for an hour, and we're cutting that down into a 5-6 minute video. Typically with brand videos, it'll actually be more content than that because we'll interview multiple people. But, because of the smaller size of the company, we only interviewed the founder, Daniel, for this, but it can definitely be a challenge to cut down that much content into that small of a package, right? And it's really about finding what is the most important part and going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, which is the why, the how, the what, and the for who.
Yeah, you had to kind of cut all the fat off of the story and let it be the leanest, meanest version of whatever that story is. Because you don't want people to get bored, but also it's like you don't have 30 minutes to expand on it. You know, you have to get the meat and potatoes of it to the people watching the video in the most efficient way possible. More or less, we followed a fairly straightforward path. It's why do you do what you do? What do you do? How do you do it? And who is it for? And that structure runs through the whole video. And we answered those specific questions, and that's why the video is so succinct. I'm very proud of the edit. I think it's very easy to watch. I think I think it flows really well. I think the musical accompaniments complement what he is saying and the story he's delivering, but I think also what he's saying complements the performance.
I think it's really interesting because most of the time we did more guitar performances than we did interviews, which is kind of backwards. Like usually we'll do a lot of interviews and then we'll get some B-roll, people building stuff, some product shots, stuff like that. But instead of doing a bunch of interviews, we did a bunch of guitar performances. And that allowed us, again, like I mentioned earlier, to give more deliverables as far as product demos, right? But also, there's a variety of the guitar performances. There's a variety of styles. There's a variety of sounds, which was another thing that we wanted to highlight with the company. And it also allowed us to tell a story that does ebb and flow emotionally. Part of the post-production process is obviously revisions. Something that we do on every project is something that we have built into our process. And honestly, Daniel had very few revisions for us. I hate to toot our own horn here, but he was kind of blown away.
He was kind of stoked. It's always nice when you spend time to make something and then you send it to the person you're making it for and they're just like, this is so rad. He called Michael right away and was like, this is so sick.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's a little trophy in my heart.
Yeah, huge sigh of relief after being in editing for a week. You know, it's like, oh God, are they gonna like this? But yeah, no, it was awesome. Actually, most of the notes he had were about the actual mix of the music. Because, you know, being a guitar amp builder and just being Daniel, he's got a very sensitive ear. He can hear kinds of stuff that you and I cannot, you know. So, yeah.
But then it's like you get to this interesting point where it is done, and me as a director, I hand it off to the person that I made it for. But then how should somebody use a brand video, and is it right for their company?
That's a great question. I'm glad that you asked. You know, as a producer, this is what I'm constantly thinking about. Like, when we go into a video project, my first question is, why are we doing this? What is this going to do for your company? How is this going to make you more money? Like, if you're going to invest thousands of dollars into something like a brand video, we want this to be something that is going to make you 5x whatever it is that you're investing into this, right? So the best way to use a brand video, right? If you're a small company like Port City is, posting this on social media is going to be huge. Posting it on your Facebook is going to go a long way for you. Posting it on your YouTube is going to go a long way for you. So again, like we mentioned earlier, they're also going to be posting all of these product demos on their YouTube, and that's going to live there forever, and it's going to sell them a lot of amps. But also the brand story, like when someone watches a product demo, you can put a card or put on the end screen a link to the brand video, and that's going to bring an audience member in. It's going to bring them deeper into your customer pipeline and really get them bought into your story and bought into, again, why it is that you do what you do, and be able to relate with you on a little bit more of a personal level before even having spoken with you, right? Again, that's why it's really important that we led with that piece about the light bulb moment for Daniel of when he realized, like, oh, this is it with the guitar music, right? Because every single person that's interested in guitar amps has that moment. They can tell you what that moment is. the About Us page on the website. Every website has one. That is a great place for your brand video to live, because I don't know how many times I've clicked on an About Us page on a website and it's just been like a wall of text. Right? And I just don't care to read it. I'm sorry, I don't. So having a short, concise documentary that someone can click on and watch and not just get the information they're looking for, but also enjoy. It may not be a direct correlation to sales increasing or whatever, the kind of stuff that we like to look for on the business side of things, but the emotional connection that you're able to create with your potential customers without ever having to speak with them directly or something like that, because you are speaking directly with them just through this video, is absolutely huge.
Going back to the way that Port City wants to position themselves in the guitar amp market, they want to be considered the Porsche of guitar amps. And so the reason that Porsche is such an iconic brand is that they have taken the time to curate their image and connect with people on an emotional level. Not only do they create a good product, but they have this image and this relationship with their client base. They mean something to them.
Absolutely. It's not just that Porsche is a good car, right? It's how people perceive you when you drive a Porsche. It's how you feel. It's how powerful you feel. So obviously the quality of the amps are amazing, but it's also about how you feel when you play the amps. It's about how you're perceived when you show up with a Port City amp to a gig.
And, you know, posting to YouTube is one of the most lasting ways you can have something to impact people. Everyone is always searching for guitar amp stuff or guitar tutorials or what have you, the latest equipment reviews on YouTube, and having something that can exist there within that community. Because again, it's not about getting 1 million views, it's about getting 1,000 of the right views. It's about getting people to buy into your brand, to consider your product when purchasing, and to position yourself within that market. And YouTube is one of the best ways to integrate into communities that already exist.
You post something on Facebook, it's going to get a nice pop. It might show up in people's feeds for a week or so. What I love about YouTube is that you post it there and it can keep going forever. We have a video from one of our clients, DPC, that it's just a tutorial on how to fish cable through a wall. This video just keeps getting views. It stays in their like top 5 most viewed videos for the past month, and we posted it like 3 years ago, right? It's because people are still searching for how to run a cable through a wall. So that same principle applies here, you know, for these product demos, for the brand video. Like, these things live on YouTube. People are going to continue searching. The YouTube algorithm is going to continue recommending it as long as people continue to engage with it, which we're certain they will, because these are awesome videos.
So the next time you're in the market to promote your business, consider doing a brand video to connect with your audience and show them why you do what you do.
And don't skimp on your brand video. Definitely hire professionals to help you create this, because you want it to look nice. You want something that you're going to be proud of and that's going to live on forever, because it's going to, as we just said. So again, our contact information is going to be in the description. Head to our website, check out what we do, hit us up. We would love to make you a banger brand video that can make you lots of money and help you connect with your audience. Also, I'm gonna put a video over Jack's head and you should go watch that next.
It should be here.
Yeah.
And then you'll put the crosshair logo over your face.
No, I think I'm gonna leave my face.
You're gonna put the crosshair logo here.
Yeah, it's gonna be here. Yeah,
It's gonna
exactly.
double stack on me.
Yeah.
It's fine.